There we go. So as I said, standing start, block and a mat, nothing else really needed. And we're going to start in mountain pose. So we'll bring the big toes together, a little gap for the ankles. Send the tailbone down to the floor so the pelvis kind of tilts back a little bit and it starts to engage these core muscles nicely without having to draw the core muscles in. You just get it as a sort of a side effect of sending the tailbone down. And try and release the shoulders nice and wide. Wriggle through the neck and then the palms facing forwards. Just going to breathe. It's interesting, I don't spend a lot of time during the day standing with my feet this close together. So every time I come into this pose, yeah, it's like wobbly, my body feels like it's swaying around, my feet are rolling around underneath me. I might look perfectly still, but it just feels like my body is not quite at home with standing still. So I'll wait and I'll breathe and see if that changes. Glad to see that it does. I'll bring the hands together just to have a little bit of a wrist roll. So taking the roll in all directions, just folding the wrists over. And then shake out the hands a little bit, drop the arms down again, just roll the shoulders around a couple of times. And then we'll bring the fingertips onto the collarbones, elbows together for some angel wings. So we'll lift up, roll back, and drop down. So if you did yesterday's class, which was very focused on the shoulders, hopefully those shoulders feel nice and juicy still this morning. And we'll take it a few rotations the opposite way. And then we'll just let those hands come out. We'll take a step out, turn the toes out. And we'll sort of sink down into my haunches a little bit, not too low. I keep the body as upright as I can. So again, I was tucking that tailbone down, the pubic bone is coming forwards a little bit, just hands in front, palms facing up. Inhale, draw the breath up until the hands come in line with the shoulders and the elbows are out wide. You straighten the legs a little bit, and as you sink down, you soften the knees and press the palms down, turn the palms up. Draw the energy back into your body. Exhale, just discharge. Inhale, recharge. We'll separate the hands, take them out wide as we inhale up. Bring the palms together above the head. Exhale through the heart. So being very honest about keeping the body upright. That will govern how far down we can sink. Yes, we might be able to get down lower. But can we get down low without leaning forwards? Big question. Notice that I very cunningly have my face facing forwards rather than to the side. You can't actually see how upright I am. It feels good. Bring the hands together, just wiggle the feet back in. Come into chair pose. So I want the feet to be about as close as they were in that Tadasana, with the toes touching, the heels slightly apart. Bring the hands in towards the heart as you sit down. Try and keep the spine long, spine fat. Slowly extend the hands out, following the line of the body. And then just step ourselves back up, letting the hands come out wide. And hands in towards the heart, sink down into our chair pose, squeezing the thighs together a little. Inhale the hands, lift and exhale out wide. Do it a few more times. It's really exploring how the legs feel as we move into this pose. So move slow. We can feel the weight, observe how it changes through the feet and how that affects the rest of the body. How do the muscle fibers feel? Do we feel it at the ends of the muscles or in the belly? Bring the hands in towards the heart. Just step the feet out to about hip distance apart. Let ourselves hinge forwards. Soften the knees as you need to. Bring the hands to the floor. Come up onto the shins, half up. Lengthen the body out. And down. Come onto the shins, lift up. Down. Coming up again. And we'll step it back into down dog. So just walking the legs out if that feels good, or standing steady. You decide how your lower back feels. If you move around, it might make it feel better, but you are doing more work through that SI joint and through the hips. Static, you might want to bend the knees. And then just work on letting the chest sink and the hips move up and back. Or maybe you're going to go conventional. Steer the heels towards the back of the mat. And take a little breath here and walk the hands in towards the feet. Although when I started to lift my hands, they actually went the other way. Scary moment at the front of the mat. Doesn't happen very often. Bring the hands under the hips, soften the knees, and let ourselves lift up slowly. And we'll shake it all out as we come up to the front of the mat. We'll take a vinyasa, modified version. Feet are hip distance apart and parallel. Inhale those hands high and into the heart. Fold down gently. Soften the knees as much as you need to. We'll step back with the right and left. Let the knees come to the floor. Take a breath. Bend the elbows back, shoulders back, chest down between the hands. Slide the feet away. Bring the hands a little further back. And then inhale, low cobra. So ribs stay on the ground. Shoulders draw back a little bit. We press the thighs down. Lengthen the legs away. Just a few breaths. Try to extend the head in the same direction as the spine is lengthening out. Just following that line. I know it's really, the spine is a series of curves, but we can kind of think of it as a straight line, especially if we consider the front of the body. Okay, to come back out of that, we'll take the hands towards the bottom of the ribs. press away from the floor, sit back onto the heels, and then come forwards onto tabletop. Lifting the knees away from the floor, we're back into our down dog position. And we'll draw the right knee in for a lunge. Come onto the fingertips. Draw the chest forwards. Step into the forward fold as you exhale, drawing the belly in. Bring the hands onto the hips, soften the knees and lift up. I'll take that again, leading this time with the left leg to the back of the mat. Lowering the knees, elbows back, shoulders back, chest down. Slide the feet back. Bring the hands back a little closer so the elbows are nicely tucked in towards the body. If you're able to, try to turn the heels out a little bit to make some more space in the lower back. That's the idea. So not clenching too much into the lower back and the buttocks. This is intended to be a soft, warming up lift, nothing extreme. Come down for the last time, bring the hands back, heel away from the floor, sit back onto the heels again, then come forwards into tabletop, into our down dog. Draw the left foot through to the lunge. Oops. And then step it forwards into that forward fold. Hands on the hips as you're ready to lift up. We'll come high down to the floor. We're going to step back and step ourselves into a down dog, into a plank, knees to the floor, and then gently back down into child's pose. All the way to the back. Just going to take a few breaths here, exploring rib cage expansion and how the diaphragm feels when we're restricting it a little bit. Trying to relax the shoulders even though the elbows are away from the ground. Using all the mat for width of where the hands are positioned. Now we'll come back up onto all fours for some cat-cow. So just adjust knees underneath hips, shoulders over wrists, draw the chest forwards, tilt the pelvis, the thoracic spine will lift towards the sky as you draw the core in. Inhale through, and exhaling out. Using your own breath can even be the opposite way around to the in and out that I suggested. And back into a neutral spine. We're going to take a melting heart. So with the hands come forwards. My hands are a little wider now than the mat. I've got relatively big shoulders. I still want them to be hands wider than my shoulders by some margin. I'll keep the hips over the knees. Press the shins into the floor a little bit. Press the hands down. A little bit of a push back. And then let the chest come into that nice line between the hands, the shoulders, and the hips. Drawing the belly in a little bit. Think of the area below your belly button, between that and the pubic bone. And then we start to walk the fingers in, so we move the hips back a little bit. Then we're in safe territory to bring the hands back in bigger chunks. We'll take a down dog, tuck the toes underneath. Walk the hands in towards the toes. As we arrive, we just wiggle the feet back into the center line. So big toes touch. You feel that little gap, about 1/2 inch to 1 inch between the ankle bones. We'll soften back into chair pose. So we sit back first, lengthen the body, take the hands away from the floor, find your balance. Draw the arms forwards, palms face in, get a nice long line. Squeeze the thighs together a little as you slowly lift back up. Nice and gently, nice and safe, nice and controlled. And shake it all out as we walk up to the front of the mat. Inhale high, feet hip distance apart and parallel. Exhale down to the floor. We'll step back into plank. This time we're going to take half plank and up dog. And then we're going to let the knees come to the floor rather than coming into down dog. And we'll sit back into that child's pose. Come back up onto all fours. Tuck the toes underneath. Into down dog. Walking the hands back in to the back end of the mat. Toes come together, just as we did before. Sit down gently. Squeezing the thighs together. When you're ready, take the hands away from the floor slowly. Keep the spine nice and long. Belly drawn in a little bit for support. Let the legs open up naturally. Bring the hands back down and shake it out again to the front of the mat. Hands out wide as we inhale into the heart. Going to exhale down to the floor. Walk the fingers forwards a little bit. Lift the heels off the ground. Bend the knees. So you sit back down onto your haunches. Take your hands behind. And ta-da! We've arrived on our bums. I'm going to take a little breath, lean back onto your elbows, and have your elbows about shoulder distance apart. Now I've got the palms facing up, and they're kind of just sitting underneath my lower back, so I'm almost sitting on my fingers, not quite. I'm going to lift the chest, roll the shoulders back, keep the chin in towards the chest as well. And I'm going to come up onto the tippy toes. Draw the knees as close into vertical as I think I can get them to be, and then extend the legs up towards the sky. So try and keep the back nice and flat. So I want to lift the chest a little bit, get a little bit of engagement in the muscles around the front of the knees, and then I'm going to slowly take the right foot down, hover an inch off the ground, bring it back, take the other leg out. So my legs are as close to 90 degrees to my body as I can get. They're not completely vertical. They kind of lengthen out a little bit. It's kind of natural. Anything else requires me to sort of seriously crunch in my hip flexors more than I'm able to. My back rounds out. So if you're able to get the legs higher, if that's how your body works, that's great. This is what my body does. This is my interpretation, I guess you could call it. Keep the chest lifting. Breathe as you move. Try to avoid the little bounce on the floor. Happens every now and again. Almost there. Got 5 more seconds. Then bend the knees, bring the feet down. We'll just take the elbows out to the side and take a little spinal twist. So get to relax the neck and the shoulders out a little bit for a moment. Shimmy the hips over to the left, the legs come to the right. If it feels good in the neck to turn to the left, then by all means do. If you want to keep your eyes looking towards the ceiling, that's okay as well. This is a rest. So we're still stretching out the muscles, but we're not trying to put ourselves into a particular place. We're just using gravity and body weight. See if you can let everything else just sink down into the floor. Now we'll slowly bring one leg at a time back up. Turn the head, bring ourselves back into the center, shimmy to the right. Let's go left. And then we'll draw that top leg up, follow that through. Now we're going to take a little bend in the elbow department. So I've got a nice cactus shape starting to happen through the arms. The elbows and forearms and the back of the fist is on the floor. And we keep a nice long spine. We draw the belly button down towards the spine and the spine into the floor a little bit. And just bring my knees directly above my hips. And then placing the shins parallel to the floor, so they're lifted. The heels are about the same height as the knees. I point the toes away and squeeze the thighs, keep the belly drawn in. I try to keep the angle between the knees as I allow my hips to drop the feet down to the floor to tap, and then lift back up slowly. Now the important thing is to come up slowly with control so you come back to the same point without moving the spine around. So it's a very slow, exaggerated breath. Inhale on the way up, exhale on the way down. Just gentle little toe taps, trying to keep the shoulders relaxed and out of the equation. You can start to hear a little bit of effort going through the breath as I do these. It might look like I'm taking it very easy, but I'm having to concentrate, having to work on my breath. You draw the belly down, you kind of restrict the diaphragm, so bringing the breath into the ribs is a little more tricky. And not to avoid drawing the knees in too close to the body. It just kind of interrupts the efforts of keeping the spine flat. So that last sort of inch or so of travel is really slow, really focused, being very aware of where you're bringing your legs to. We'll come up for the last time. Draw the knees in towards the chest. This time we'll take the hands around the top of the knees and just make some big circles with the knees in the air. So to start with, just a nice movement through the hips. You get a little bit of rock through the pelvis as well. And we'll take it a few times in the opposite direction. And then we'll come to a steady position where the knees are out wide. And take a breath in. On the exhale, I'm going to draw the knees in towards the body, draw the belly button in, lift the tailbone away from the floor, and then press the knees down the center line and away. So I'm trying to deliberately lift my tailbone off of the floor as I exhale. Be careful that I keep the neck in a nice position. So if you start to tilt your head backwards, you are maybe trying to lift a little bit more than you need to. It's slow contraction. And bear in mind that we're probably only lifting about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. There's a lot of shaking going on in my body. I'll take one more of those. And then if the legs go away, feet come to the floor close to the body. I'm going to take the right leg up towards the sky, turn the toes out, come into a figure 4. So I'm dropping the ankle to the outside of the thigh, flexing the foot, drawing the knee down towards the front end of the mat as I come up on the tiptoes of my left foot and draw my knee in towards my body. I've got my lefts and rights mixed up a little bit there, but never mind. I'm going to lift and take the hands around the shin and lay back. So I'm using the strength of my arms and my shoulders to help draw the stretch into my left hip. That knee closest towards me. Rather than using the muscles in the opposite leg, so kind of passive at the moment. I'm going to release, extend the leg back up. It comes to the floor, so taking the opposite leg, the right leg up towards the sky, turning the toes out. Ankle bone is to the outside of the thigh. I let the knee move forwards first to give it some space. Then I come up onto the tiptoes, start to draw the knee in, bring the chin in towards the chest, take the hands through the center, and rest myself back. We can release there. Both legs up towards the sky and give them a little bit of a stretch out. And bring the feet back down to the floor. We'll roll onto our right side. Use the hands to press up. Swing the feet towards the back of the mat. Come back up onto all fours. Take a little breath. I'm going to take cat-cow and then move that into child's pose. So just pressing into the hands and sitting back gently. Inhaling back up. And through, it's a long breath. Roll the spine. Ease their way back. I'll come up one more time. Forwards, into neutral. Tuck the toes underneath, lift the knees away from the floor. Walk the feet into the front of the mat into a forward fold. Hands onto the hips. Lift up. Inhale high. Hands through the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Let's step back with the right leg. Take the left hand into the twist. Bring the hand to the floor. Step back into down dog. Draw the right knee in to the front of the mat. Drop the back heel down to warrior 2. You can bring the hands onto the thigh or lift up in a cartwheel, your choice. Once you've arrived, we extend out over the front thigh for that extended side angle. Take the top arm up and windmill. Yeah, try and keep the body facing the long side of the mat. Pressing down into that forearm to get as much lift in the body as I can. We'll lift back up into warrior two. Take the hands high and bring them back down onto the inside of the front foot. Spin the back heel, let the back knee down to the floor. Spin the front foot out at a decent angle. Let the knee hang out to the side. Take the right arm forwards, up towards the sky. And then bend the back knee and bring the heel in towards your bottom. Find that. And open the chest out. You're going to release, bring the hand back, spin the foot back in so the hand's to the outside. Step it back into plank, half plank, to up dog, to down dog. And the left knee comes in for lunge. Front of the mat, take a little breath. Step it forwards into the forward fold, sink down, hands onto the hips, lengthen the spine out, lift slow. Inhale high. Hands into the heart. And exhale down. Left foot back, left hand to the floor, right arm lifts into the twist. Comes back down to the floor. Drop the back heel in. Warrior two. Should be on the other side. Come back down to the floor. Missed out a down dog. Oops. Throw the left leg forwards. Don't do that twice. We'll never get anywhere. Right foot back down for warrior two. Sorry for myself, the giggles now. Lift ourselves up. Ta-da! Facing the right side. Extend out. Forearm onto that thigh and those big circles. I knew there was a chance that I would get that round the wrong way. Even before I did it. I'll take the hand back and lift into our warrior two. Bring the hands high, rotate. The hands come down to the floor. Spin the back heel. Drop the back knee as the foot at the front turns out to the side and hangs out. Left arm comes up. Bend the knee. Find the foot. Adapt as you need to into the pose. It's not a problem to slowly draw yourself back a little bit and around to find that foot and start to ease it in. Not everyone's got hamstrings and quads that want to work that way first time round in the morning. And then we'll release, bring the hand to the outside again, step back into plank, half plank, to up dog, to down dog. We'll draw the left foot into the lunge, come forwards into a forward fold, hands under the hips, and a slow lift up. Next one's a bit easier. Inhale high, for me to remember, maybe not to do, but certainly remember the plot. Coming gently in, stepping back into down dog. Take the feet hip distance apart, or at least the distance of your feet. Come into your plank. We'll take side plank to the left. Bring the right foot forwards halfway, and then lift the hips up high. Strong on the side edge of that foot that's at the back of the mat. Come back down. Step it back into plank, half plank, up dog, down dog. Scissor the right leg, draw the knee in towards the chest, through the lunge, and step it into the forward fold. Hands onto the hips, and lift up. Second side, inhale high, hands through the heart, Stepping left foot back into down dog. Come into plank. Take a little breath. So over to the right, the foot comes forward. We lift the hips up as high as we can. So we're pressing into that front foot. So we want that shin to be pretty much vertical, knee over ankle. The body forming as much of a line down the side of the mat as you can manage. Bring the hands back down to the floor. We step it back, plank to half plank, to up dog, to down dog. And scissor the left leg. Draw the knee in towards the chest. Foot through. Decent lunge. Exhale through. I'm not sure decent lunge probably acts as a yoga cue, but you know what it means. Inhale high. Hands through the heart. Exhale down to the floor. We're going to take the right foot to the back of the mat. Let the knee come to the floor. Slide the fingers back a little bit behind the shoulder line. So somewhere sort of halfway between the front knee and the hip. Going to sit back gently. Allow yourself to tuck the toe under on the back foot. When that feels good on the back knee, you slide down so your bottom, your sitting bones come onto the heel. Now the front leg, you want to have toes pointing up towards the sky. Try and lengthen out through the heel and draw the thigh in and lift the chest up towards the sky. And we come forwards again. Bring the fingers with us. Take a little breath. Step it back into a plank, to half plank, to up dog, down dog. Right leg scissors. Knee comes in towards the body. Step it through into the decent lunge. Press forwards. Hands onto the hips and we lift up. A little softness in the knee, weights in the toes. Hands through the heart. Exhale down. Left foot back. Knee to the floor. Slide the fingers back. Remember, we're looking for about halfway down the thigh as a marker, not an absolute science, but pretty close. Tuck the toe on the back foot underneath. Allow yourself to sit back slowly. The front heel slides on the mat. You try and keep your pubic bone on the center line. Toes are flexed. Lengthen out, draw it in, lift it up. Pretty much how it goes. And we'll lift up. Bring the hands forward, step back into our plank. Half plank and up dog. Down dog. Scissor the left leg. Draw it in. Through for the lunge. Step it forwards. Hands onto the hips and we lift up. Hands towards the heart as you breathe in. Now just check your feet are hip distance apart and parallel. Soften the knees a little bit. We're going to take the weight into the right foot. Slide the left foot back and forward. Toes are just feeling like they're going to run out off the mat. And then sink back into that heel. So both legs are straight. Keep the hands in towards your heart. Shoulders nice and flat. We're going to hinge forwards into pyramid pose. Come down slow. And you can bring the hands gently onto the shin. And then start to extend the body out from the hips. Send the hips to the back of the mat. Press the legs down. Try and keep the weight even through the entire foot, front and back. Now soften the front knee. Bring the hands back in towards the heart. So that front knee should be pretty much over the ankle as you lift up. And then we'll step it forwards. Take a little check. Feet are in line and parallel, hip distance apart. Soften the knees over the toes. Weight goes into that left leg. Slide the right foot back. So it's a parallel slide with the line of the foot. Use the heel down into our pyramid legs. Make sure it feels strong and we're stable. The hips are square to the front of the mat. Draw the belly in. Slowly hinge forwards. Take as many breaths as you need to come down. Try and keep your body over the center line. When you're ready, you can bring the hands onto the front shin and then lengthen the body out. So some of us will have got a little deeper than others, but everybody ends up with a spine that is parallel to the floor, lengthening the crown of the head away and sending the hips back. Pressing the legs down, but very careful not to press into the back of the knee joints. So you do kind of hold back a little bit from that. Bring the hands back in towards the heart, soften the front knee. Hinge slowly back up. And then step it through to the front of the mat. I actually find the slow lift back up the hardest part of the sequence of that little move. It seems to require the most amount of balance through my feet. I'll bring the hands high into the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Take a little breath in. Take the right foot to the back of the mat. Drop the heel in for warrior two. Bring the hands onto the front side to lift or cartwheel, your choice. And we're going to come into triangle pose. So ease that front leg open. Send the hips back. Start to extend out. Bring the hands gently down. Top arm lifts. And the body lifts up with it. We're not sinking into that front hand. It's just there for, it's got to sit somewhere. It is the top half of the body. Everything's lifting that way, up towards the sky. We'll come back into warrior two. Turn the palm on the front hand and bring that hand up towards the ear. Take the other hand around the back towards the front thigh. Then extend over into that reverse warrior. Strong back leg. Stretch out through the fingertips. Come back into our warrior two. Float the arms high down to the floor. Spin the back heel. From the lunge, we step forwards into a forward fold. Hands under the hips, soft knees and lift. Take that to the second side. So inhale high. Exhale down. Again, just taking the weight into the toes and the knees soften. As the legs get tired, get them to roll into the heels. Left leg back for warrior two. Your choice on how you lift. And then we slowly start to straighten the front leg. Send the hips back a little bit as we lengthen out. Use that hand down onto the shin, top hand high. Opening the chest to the side, rolling the ribs. Keeping the feet connected to the ground again, trying to get as much contact surface, floor connection. Rather than just being on the floor, we're pressing down, becoming part of the floor. So that foundation feels very strong. Top part of the body is lifting up, so there's really very little weight into this bottom hand. It's really there to keep things tidy. Now we'll soften the front knee, come back into our warrior two. Turn the palm on the front hand, lift that arm up so the hand's directly above the head. Arm is tapped into the ear. Bring the other hand around, find the front thigh, and then extend the body out, keeping that arm close to the head and the head close to the arm. Slowly bring ourselves back. Warrior two, lift up, rotate and down to the floor. Spin the back heel. And we'll step it back into plank. So just ease ourselves back in gently. Come forwards. Knees to the floor. Sitting back down. We'll take the hands towards the toes. And down into child's pose. It's going to take a little bit of a sort of 30-second gap here. Letting the breath settle. Letting the body release. So a strong sort of flowing sequence into child's pose can take a good few breaths to really initiate that release mechanism. Consciously slowing the breath down. Feeling the ribs stretch. Take one last nice breath here. Bring the hands forwards as we exhale. So lift slowly back up. Great. Now we'll come down onto our bellies. And lengthen the legs out. Have the feet about hip distance apart, boot laces down. You can take the elbows out wide and the hands just sitting underneath the chin. Wriggle the hips out a little bit. Try and relax the shoulders a little more, the hips and the legs. And then I'm going to come into frog pose, half frog pose really. So I'm going to bend the right knee, bring that heel in towards my bottom first of all. Take my right hand back and draw the heel in towards the sitting bone. Press the hips and thighs down gently to the floor. See if I can get a sense of lengthening the knee away from me. And I'm going to release that foot to the floor and cross over to the opposite side. So left foot comes in. Again, I'm aiming for the sitting bone. So I'm bringing it a little bit more in towards the center line. If the knee was to the outside of the hip. Pressing down. Put the hip and the thigh and the knee away again, just as we did before. Okay, can release that as well. I'm going to take a slightly different version of that as we come up into a Sphinx-like position. I'm going to take my right hand and just fold that across my body. So my right hand is behind my left elbow. I'm going to draw the shoulder back a little bit and press the forearm into the floor. Now I'm going to bend my right knee and bring my foot towards my bottom and take my left hand behind, find my foot and draw that heel again into my sitting bone. Try and keep the shoulder drawn back on the left side. Press down into that right forearm. Lengthen the body away from the pelvis, so lengthening the legs out. So this is a crossed over version. And it comes, well, my heel comes a little bit more into the center line of the body. Last breath in. And then release. I'm going to fold the arms across each other so they're parallel to the body, keeping myself nice and high. And to bend that left knee. Take the right hand back, find my foot, draw it in. Lengthen the body out. Belly's drawn in. Strong on the shoulders. Trying to keep the chest square to the ground. It's a challenge, to say the least. And we can release from there as well. And we'll come back down to the floor. So bring the hands back underneath the chin. Feet out hip distance apart again, and we're wriggling out through the hips. And then we're going to bend both knees. Bring the heels in. Keep both hands back. We're going to aim for ankles. Keeping the knees about hip distance apart. Wriggle in a little bit. Flex the feet. Press the thighs and the hips down into the floor. Let the chest lift as you press the shins away towards the back end of the mat. So we get a little bit of lift. We squeeze the shoulder blades together too. And then slowly we press the soles of the feet towards the sky to lift up into our bow pose. And then slowly back down. Release. Hands come back underneath the chin. Shake it all out. And take the hands out, crucifix style, palms facing down, just under the fingertips. Bring the feet back onto the center line. We'll take a little shoulder stretch here whilst we're down on the floor. Bring the right hand underneath the right shoulder. Start to roll out to the left. You start to walk the fingers out a little bit. You can drop the head gently to the floor, but try and keep the face facing the side of the mat rather than looking towards your toes, which tends to curve the upper back. I'm going to try and keep that nice and straight. Chest is kind of 90 degrees to the floor, same as the hips, hopefully. Lengthen out a little bit gently through the legs, just so they feel like they're doing a little bit of work rather than just resting, but not a big effort. And keep it soft. And I'm going to roll back down. Just wriggle the fingers out as they come out. Make sure everything feels like it's come back to life. Take the right hand out, up onto the fingertips. The left hand comes in. And I roll over to the right side. And back down. Whew. And this is where I'm going to come into my Shavasana. So I'm just going to roll over on the block. Fine, we put that behind the back of my head. That's an option. Could be a cushion. Take the feet out nice and wide. Hands down by the side of the body. We've got a few minutes of Shavasana, so just wriggle everything out so it all feels like it's moved into the right place. And then if you can, notice your body sinking and releasing into the floor. Letting all sense of effort, focus, control melt away. Feeling content in the wholeness of our bodies. Begin to stretch those fingers and toes. Wriggle the wrists, hands, ankles, feet. Breathe a little deeper. Stretch it out. Whatever that needs to look like or be. Use the heels along the floor towards your body. Roll the knees in towards you. Just take a very gentle hug. Easy rock and roll. And then when we're ready, roll down onto our right side. Tuck ourselves in and relax. We'll take a little bit of a deeper breath. Use the hands to press into the floor to lift up. Into a seated posture. Let the hands come in towards your heart. Take the breath in. As you exhale, chin drops, bow to the floor. Feeling our practice. Breath comes back in to lift the spine. Head follows, eyes open. Namaste. Thank you for joining me on the mat this morning. Hope you enjoyed. See you again soon.